Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Tamera. I've got a returning guest today because we needed to have a little bit of an expanded conversation about our last topic. But first, if you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So give me an opportunity to talk to you about your title needs. My returning guest is the wonderful Terri Phillips. We've had a lot of conversations about her journey through surviving breast cancer. I had her on the podcast a few weeks ago, but we weren't able to have as lengthy of a conversation as I wanted to. And there were some really important things that we didn't get a chance to discuss. So I wanted to have her back today to talk to us. Prevention, mindset, things like that are just a really important part of having to go through this. And so Terri, she is a triple negative breast cancer survivor, and she is also a realtor. And so Terri, thank you so much for coming back on the show with me today. I'm really excited to finish our conversation.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. You just went through another surgery yourself, and you are sitting here recovering as we speak. So thank you for making it in.
Yeah,
I'm glad
absolutely.
you were able to today. So this is segment 2 in the Participate in Life Together series, Surviving Breast Cancer. Let's talk, the broad part of this conversation is, kind of what did you learn through your experience that you want to make the audience aware of? And so let's start with we have like 6 bullet points of things that you learned, right? So let's start with prevention. And I put our last full podcast on my social media. I don't typically do that, but I felt it really important to share the entirety of the whole podcast and say to them that I've learned some lessons in talking with you.
Right.
Because I've put off things before. I mean, nobody wants to do any of it.
No.
Who wants to get a pap smear and a mammogram?
It's not fun.
I mean, yay.
Life-saving, yes. Fun, no.
Yay. So, I won't anymore. I won't.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Please don't.
So let's talk about prevention. Were you diligent about prevention?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So here's the no part. The no part is during COVID.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of fell behind on a lot of self-care.
Sure.
It was more, we went into a new state of, what do I do? And I can't go anywhere or whatever. But I was still diligent doing my at-home self-exams.
Okay.
Always. And that's how I found it.
And I asked you this question before, so I'd like for you to answer it again for those that are just watching this particular podcast. But do you have a history in your family of breast cancer?
No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay.
And I did not, they tested me, they did genetic testing to see if I, had the BRCA gene, if I was CHEK2, if I was HER2, everything, negative to everything.
Okay. So you had no reason to be doing these sorts of self-exams. Other than just, it's what women do.
And I had a history of having cystic tissue. So, I'd go get a mammogram. They'd always call me back to do a second one, like a sonogram or a diagnostic mammogram, what they call it. And it was a cyst, it was always a cyst that would go away it was never anything. And cystic tissue is very common.
So prevention, you have learned to be extremely diligent.
Extremely diligent. Of the women I talked to, I think I've talked to, I'm pretty close with about 10 right now since I met them because of this.
And I thought that was important to establish because you're talking to a circle of women that are going through this. Yeah,
definitely. And I don't even know every single one of them are, with the exception of one now who contacted me recently, I've never met before.
Okay.
They were sent my way because of a common friend, or one of them I actually met during chemo when I was coming back from doing my labs, and she was at the check-in desk, just had a death grip on that folder that I knew. I was like, there's her welcome to the club folder. And,
oh my gosh.
And I don't normally do this. I just went right up to her and hugged her and told her my name and gave her my information. And I said, I know you have just become part of a club that you never wanted to be invited to, but we take care of each other. Call me. I'm here for you. And we have become great friends.
I love that.
But all of them have found it, again, with the exception of maybe one or two, doing self-exams.
They have, they have found the issue through a self-exam. That is really important to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We know our own bodies. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're diligent about it and you feel something that doesn't feel right, wherever it may be, arm, neck, breast, keep an eye on that. Make a note of, how large it is, what size it is. Does it move around? I mean, get it checked.
Well, and I think this is such an important part of the conversation. The reason being, when we grow up and we're going through school, right, there's so many things that we don't know about.
Right.
They don't teach us in school, right? And we've all had these conversations as older, with the kids today, don't know how to sign their name or write a check or, all of those sorts of things, right?
Right.
But for women, we also, I'm assuming there's still health education. It's been a minute since I've been in high school, so you're going to have to bear with me. But, that isn't anything that was ever talked about.
No.
Self-examination.
Never.
It should be part of what is talked about.
It absolutely should be. And I mean, I think I'm thankful now that at least hopefully they're hearing it at home from their family, from their mom, their grandma, their sister, whatever. If they're not teaching it in school, I mean, definitely there's a public awareness about it, which we talked about, the Komen Foundation, and they've done you can't even say a fantastic job. It's beyond that of getting the word out, to do exams. And
you always hear it from your gyno when you go in for your yearly
but so many people don't even do that.
No,
I mean,
you're right.
I'm like,
it's like, where do you get the education? Where do you get how do you know what to do? Right.
Yeah.
And so spreading the word about prevention is incredibly important.
It's key. And I know that it's out there a lot. Like we talked about, a little bit we touched on the last podcast, and people even say, it becomes what I call pink noise, just because of the color pink.
White noise, pink noise, yes.
If they hear it so much and they're like, oh, why is this such a big deal? People get diagnosed with breast cancer all the time. They've practically come up with a cure for no.
You've heard that from somebody?
Oh, yeah. And, and I think it's
we need some fear is what we need.
Well, yeah. And I mean, it's like, well, clearly you don't know someone who's, or close to you, who you love and you watch go through, these.
Do they realize people do not survive this?
I honestly think that it is an assumption out there that the majority of people, and let me go back. Many people do survive. Most people do survive. However, if you don't catch it early, or even if you do, but it's an extremely aggressive form, it's a different story. It's something you and I also talked about last time of how many different types of breast cancer there are.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't know even triple negative was a thing until I talked to you.
I mean, there's so many. There's triple negative, triple positive, inflammatory. Lobular.
Incredible.
There's stuff that you don't even, you're like, that's a breast cancer? Yeah. And guess what? They don't have a cure for that. There's not a cure for any of it. It's just they have found that chemo can kill cancer cells.
Right.
Doesn't mean it won't come back. But it has proven, different ones have proven successful in treating specific breast cancers. The one I have, they have this treatment and this protocol that generally works, but they don't even call it, they're like, okay, you have a 7% chance this could come back. Okay,
well, after you've gone through something like what you've gone through, 7% has got to feel terrifying.
It is, but I think in layman's terms are like, yeah, but 93% chance you could, but it's in your head.
There's a chance.
There's still a chance.
There's
I have
still
an
a
increased chance, and there's an increased chance. Like the surgery I just was, I don't even know if you want to talk about it on here, but
it's part of women's health.
Yeah. I mean, it was a full hysterectomy preventative because when the type I have comes back, it doesn't come back in the breast usually. And yes, after double mastectomy, you can still get breast cancer.
Right. That's
another common misconception.
Yes, that's an important thing to say.
Yeah. So, you do all the things to try and prevent, the chemos, the treatments, the surgeries we just talked about. I started adding up in my head last night. This is my 7th surgery.
Yeah.
Nothing was easy about this. Now, things made it easier. People made it easier. Situations made it easier. But
no, there's nothing easy.
Whatever type you get diagnosed with, whether it's one that responds extremely well or one they're not, really sure about, it's still stressful.
Of course it is. And it's devastating. Yes. It's beyond stressful. I don't think that's the right word for it.
It's not. It's all consuming on some days because like I told you, I had spoken to some ladies, like, give me some input, what goes through your mind, and they said, it's just always there. And people don't realize why it's always there. All they're thinking of, why? You're fine now. Okay.
Yeah.
Am I?
Are you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I? I mean, even if you get past the physical part and no disease detected, that's great. No evidence of disease, what they call it, NED. But then they tell you to do all the things, no, we need to see you again in 6 months.
Right.
And we need to, it's a constant.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask. Just because you're now in remission, right?
Yes.
Doesn't mean you're done with all of the testing and ongoing care, right?
I will always, for at least the next 5 years, be called in for constant blood work, various scans each year. I have another PET scan coming up at the end of December. All kinds, just testing.
So let's talk about your mindset when you got diagnosed versus, and then through the darkest part. I saw someone in that group. You were scrolling through it, so I looked. I wasn't trying to invade your privacy. But you said, someone said, use the words dark basement. Did you read that or catch that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm keeping it in context or not because I didn't read the whole sentence. It just, for whatever reason, my eyeballs were drawn to dark basement.
Dark basement.
And so I think that is a mindset that's key to getting through this.
It is. And so when I first was diagnosed, I did all the wrong things.
Tell me what those were.
I went on Google.
Oh yeah. You can't do that.
I went on Google. And, because then remember when I was diagnosed, I didn't know there were a bunch of different types. So I just went on Google and started survivability rate, breast cancer, So of course all the scary ones pop up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you get on Google for a runny nose, you have nose cancer. So, that was the wrong thing to do. Once I got over that hump, I really just kind of decided if I'm going to, and this was after I met with my surgeon and, you kind of start planning your path. If I'm going to get through this with any type of mental stability, I've got to change my mindset. It didn't mean that I didn't allow myself to get down. I did. I think,
and it's not like you're running around thinking everything's sunshine and rainbows.
No,
you know what I mean?
But anytime I would, like she said, the dark basement, anytime my head kind of started heading down that stairwell, I'd flip it, I have to, okay, what about this? What about that? And it usually, goes to things that are my reasons, my reasons why,
I think that's really important. That's a really big old nugget, what you're saying right there, because I was going to ask you, how do you flip it? What if you can't flip it? Right. So what are your reasons for keep moving?
Exactly.
Right? Your kids.
Yeah.
Right?
My kids, my dogs.
Your dogs. Are your kids.
Are my kids. Yeah. But, and mainly you don't have to have a list of 12,
It could be 2. It could be 1.
It could be 2. Mine were almost always, been in Shelby.
Okay.
And even the dogs, just because I'm like, oh, maybe I wish I was on the couch scratching their little heads right now or something like that. Or, thinking of Ben and Shelby, and then automatically, your train of thought just starts going in that direction, and you're no longer going in the dark basement.
I would think circle of friends, like confidants or people that have gone through it, like what you've created with these other women.
And it helps to talk to someone who's gone through it, because and for some reason, it helps to talk to someone who's gone through it who you don't really know that well. They're able to share a little bit more. We're able to immediately just jump in without having to say, okay, is this going to make you feel uncomfortable because I'm about to talk about my breasts?
Right.
Or did you have this side effect happen? There are weird things that happen. If somebody hasn't gone through it, they're more than willing to sit there and listen to you, but they can't really,
they can't
jump
help
in.
You walk through it.
Yeah. And a lot of times, and this is something I put on myself. I was like, they've got to be tired of hearing about it. My closest friends. I feel bad calling and saying, I I just had a bad day. Why?
My guess is that's a you thing.
That's a me thing. No, it's
Yes.
that's why I said that. That's a me thing. Because have they ever said
No.
anything to
And
me? No.
they would never say
and
that
they never
or feel
would.
that way or
In
even
fact,
think it.
You know, I had said it around them before, and they're like,
What are you talking about?
no, you call me anytime,
Uh-huh.
you know? So that was a me thing.
Is there, okay, I hope I can articulate what I'm trying to say. Sometimes when, and I'm not comparing what a hard time I've gone through to breast cancer. So let's just, have that out there. But if I'm going through a hard time, I put my head down and I bury myself in my work. I keep going down the road. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think that would be a challenge for you, particularly because of the type of business that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But would that be an answer to a distraction or to bury your head in something that you have passion for if you are capable, right? Because you're physically debilitated at some point, sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So does that make sense what I'm asking? Is there a way can you also refocus to help with your mindset so you're not staying focused on this so much, maybe you're focused on this instead?
Yeah, and I mean
diverted at least partially.
It's something.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It's something, I've kind of joked with the women I talked to about survival compartmentalization,
Yeah, for sure.
It's you have to. It's not healthy to think about whatever trauma you're going through.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to just sit on the couch and think about it all the time.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's going to lead nowhere good. So do find your passions, know what your passions are, even if it work. I mean, you and I happen to love what we do for a living,
right? But
whatever, if you have a couple other things you can bury yourself in, do that. It doesn't mean you're ignoring the situation. You're having some healthy refocus. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so there's 3 things that I've heard you say that are golden nuggets to help people with their mindset. The first one is, what is your why? Figure out what your why is and focus on your why. The second one is to have a circle of friends that you can lean on to talk to when times are hard. More specifically, to have a circle of friends that are going through or have gone through
a couple circles.
Or a couple circles. Yeah. Yes. And then the third thing is to figure out what your hobbies are and have some sort of diversion.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. I did the strangest things that and I literally, friends would laugh at me. They go, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I ordered stuff from Amazon. I'm going to make some wind chimes."
Fabulous.
Where did that come from?
Did you make them?
I've made some. Yeah.
How'd it go?
They're cute. I like them.
Do they function?
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Fabulous.
And they're pretty. And guess what? It absorbed time. I had never made. Also, I started I had done this in the past. I had painted rocks and just putting little messages on them. And whenever I'd go out for a walk to try and get some exercise, which I couldn't do a lot during chemo just because my blood cell counts were really low. But on times when I could, trying to, get that going, I'd leave those rocks somewhere and little kids would find them and I'd see they'd post it on our neighborhood Facebook page. So it made me feel good. Remember what we talked about last time was the grace, doing stuff for others. That's kind of my love language, so that's why it's hard for me to let somebody do stuff for me.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Yeah. But I would do that as a way of kind of diversion. I've got to have something to do. And what if I make somebody else smile in the process? They have no idea why I'm doing this.
I think it's great. Okay. Any other tricks to keep your mindset correct?
I would also add, as much as you can, some kind of physical activity.
Okay.
Again, I wasn't able to do a ton.
Yeah.
And then we had one of the hottest summers ever.
So
I literally ended chemo and I was like, okay, I can start walking now. No, I can't.
No, it's
So
110.
I ordered a walking pad that goes under my desk at home. And so I just kind of walk on that, I mean, but it is, that blood flow is important, not just for, your body, but your brain too.
Correct. So. Okay. Got it. So not comparing yourself to others.
Yeah. So we obviously shouldn't even do that in any day life, but
we do.
But we do. We do. And then when you're going through something breast cancer is all I know of. So I'm just speaking to breast cancer. Obviously it's whatever, the person's going through. You start doing that. Well, she has so much more energy than me. Why don't I have that energy? She looks so much better than me. Why don't I look that good? Her hair, she still has all her hair. Why did my hair fall out on day 10? And here's
where do you notice this? Is it like going to doctor's appointments or sitting in the room getting your treatment and there's other people around? Okay.
All of that. And
you start talking
and you start talking or you see them from week to week, and you notice like, I'm looking worse. They're looking great. What's going on? Or whatever the case may be. And here is, the big answer to that is something like we talked about. We didn't know how many different types there are. There are so many different treatments that are given for even specific types. I know several women who have triple negative now. We all have different treatments.
Okay.
And the reason is, there's so many reasons. It's either the size, the shape, the location of the tumor, the type not the type, but the stage that it is. Just all kinds of, and then the individual has their choice of what option or their option of what treatment they want. So it is a very slippery slope in any day to compare yourself to somebody else, but especially when you're going through something like this, because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what their treatment plan is. You don't know what the doctors have prescribed to them or how our bodies are different.
And to me, that ties back into mindset.
It does. You have to control that, and you have to kind of get logical with yourself.
Yeah. Like it doesn't make sense for me to compare myself to her because we're not the same.
We're not the same.
Yeah.
And then I have a friend going through this right now, and she had, someone go, why are the doctors telling you to do that? I don't understand. Don't, are you a doctor?
Yeah.
Don't compare. Because they'll say, well, my grandmother went through that and they didn't do anything like that. Well, we're not the same.
You're not the same.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have to, and like I had said to you off camera earlier, I said, it's not like we can re-educate people to be sensitive because we can't reach every single person in the world. So the person on the receiving end of it has to get a logical sense about it. It's like, not everybody's going to say the right thing.
I don't think people probably say the right thing a lot,
Oh, yeah.
I have felt myself talking to you about this stuff going, okay, let's focus and make sure that we're, and
Yeah.
I think I said to you, it's highly possible I'm going to say something wrong to you. Please tell me if I am. I'm trying to be very sensitive.
But that's just, I think you're so many steps ahead just by being aware.
And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about is public insensitivity and aware or not aware, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe this is being optimistic, but, I would think that most people weren't intentionally trying to be insensitive,
No, I agree. It's what I just kind of raise my kids. Like, if you don't know what to say that. I don't know what to say, but I'm so sorry. You're going
so tell me, can you give me some examples of what some of the women have gone through that I'm sure you can't. You got a list? Did you ask them?
I do actually have a small list that they were all more than happy to send to me. I've started scrolling going,
thank you for the contribution to the podcast today.
I know. There were a lot,
Okay.
Give
me some examples because I'm interested to hear what their feedback is.
And some of this I got told also.
Okay.
And you kind of just roll with it. Like, it's only hair. It will grow back.
Yeah, to me, that's just absolutely ridiculous.
Logically, you're right. It is. It's hair. It'll grow back. I probably wear a ball cap more now than I did when I was bald because it just looks, I don't feel comfortable in my own skin right now.
Yeah.
And people don't get that. They're like, it's gorgeous or whatever. But it's
not the hair you're used to.
It's not, what I'm used to. You only have to do 4 chemo sessions. That's easy. You'll breeze right through that.
I have no words right now. I don't know how many things. You may look at me and I might not say anything on some of these.
And here's a great one. Hey, look at it as a free boob job and tummy tuck. Yeah, some of them have to have some surgery below, but the free boob job and tummy tuck, which I touched on another person saying, okay, number one, it's not free.
Right.
There's a huge misconception that insurance pays for everything, which we've already discussed. It's not a one-time surgery. The mastectomy alone could be 3 if you have the mastectomy, and then you have another one for expanders and another one for reconstruction. And then if there's a revision that has to be done, there's 4. we lose feeling. It's numb, not free. I mean, and then just, the emotional thing that everybody goes through.
I think didn't someone tell you to go get a regular job?
Because I was having trouble with I
was like, oh,
bills.
That sounds ideal.
Yeah.
You're going to.
Can you see me walking in with like no hair whatsoever and throwing up and something?
Yeah,
and
you're hired.
And by the way, I have doctor's appointments every other day, but will you hire me?
And surgeries and
yes, exactly.
chemo treatments and yeah.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were like, well, and again, they weren't trying to be insensitive.
And
it was actually coming from a protective place. I'm worried about you. Do you think it's time? I know you love doing real estate, but I think it's time you go get a 9-to-5 job. Now, to me, it was insulting just because it's like, did you not think I would have done that already if it were a possibility?
Right.
Again, she didn't mean it insulting like most of these people don't.
Well, but also, how much could you have worked when you were in the thick of it? Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I was able to work at my job, thankfully, because it was what I do for a living, because
sure.
I can do different things.
Yes.
And I have a support team.
Yes.
But a regular 9-to-5 job, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to be there most days because of doctor's appointments.
Imagine if you worked retail or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wouldn't have worked.
Well, I think the takeaway from this is just, let's be careful with our words, because someone is going through a life-threatening disease.
Yeah.
And, words can be tough.
People can have sharp tongues. And I know, like I said, a lot of people out there don't get. And maybe, I used to say, well, maybe that's my fault because I didn't let y'all know all the time how miserable it was. But that was also me trying to keep a positive mindset. And I didn't necessarily
sit in the muck all the time.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily want to sit there and talk about, how I haven't slept for 3 nights because of the steroids and, or something. But
I'm so glad you're on that. Okay, before we wrap up, because we're going to run out of time, this might be more me talking to you than you talking to the audience, because I keep bringing this up. Learning how to accept help from others, and look, us that want to help, though, also, I mean, I said this on the last podcast. I've learned a lesson from talking with you. It's not do you need anything? It's I'm going to do this.
Yeah. So first of all, let's pat me on the back. Because 2 weeks ago, I let people bring me food.
I know. I was really happy about that. And your neighbors?
No, this was, that was the neighbors who did it when I was going through chemo. And that was just we're bringing you gift cards and deal with it.
That's right.
No, this was one of my friends. And she goes, okay, you're getting ready to have this surgery. Can we please just set up some meals for you? Instinct, I was like, no,
Yes, you
yes,
can.
I will accept that. And she goes, oh my word, who are you? Who am I talking to?
Well, and I texted you and I said, I think I still said something to the effect of, can I bring you something?
No,
and you're like, no. And I'm like,
well, because we had it,
but
it was already
covered.
planned.
Yeah.
If we needed help, I would have, said. And I also had to think beyond me. I mean, my daughter and son were there helping me. And I'm like, none of us are going to feel like cooking. So.
Well, I'm glad that you had the help, and I'm glad that you are learning how to accept it.
I hope everybody does get that. I mean, if your love language is helping people, then you need to get what it means for them to offer and
I bet
you
your
to
friends
accept.
been waiting a long time to help you.
Maybe.
Well, I think that's a great place to stop for today. So, any just quick last minute anything word wise you feel you really need to say? And
do your self-exams.
Do your self-exams. Okay.
I mean, early prevention really is. I am so, so, so blessed and lucky that I found mine when I did. And I didn't even remember. I didn't even feel that one. It was the other ones.
Right. Well, thank you again for being on a returning guest on my podcast. I reserve the right to have you back. So thank you for coming today. And that's another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Tamera Gady. Again, if you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. Give me an opportunity to talk to you about your title needs and make it a great day.